Welcome to RFI's Banking Uncovered, the podcast going behind the industry PR, the media spin, the product awards and the investor reports to look at what's really going on in the customer data and to ask global thought leaders about their thoughts and views on the future of banking and payments. Hi there, Chloe James here, and welcome to this very special episode of Banking Uncovered. Really delighted to be joined by Tara Page, who's the CEO of RAA Insurance. We're a business she's been in for 7 years and has a long career before then. Really special episode being that RAA Insurance recently won 3 awards at the Australian Banking and Finance Awards. They won Most Recommended General Insurer, Best Motor Insurer, and Best Home Insurer. Now that's national, that's an Australian award. So no mean feat to be winning that slew of awards. Also something we should just mention, especially unique, being that these are customer data backed awards. So unlike the typical, big marketing budget submission process, this is based purely on customers' relationship with their provider, and RAA Insurance came out on top in all 3 of those categories. So Tara, welcome.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here today after such a great accolade.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, really unique awards because it's customer data. And I know that RAA Insurance and RAA as a whole business has such a big weight on their customer. I know how important customer is to you, and we're really going to dive into that. So we're really just going to chat to you today a little bit about the awards, but maybe some of the reasons why you may have come out on top in those categories. Insurance, really tough industry at the moment. Key trends we're seeing are around obviously affordability. That's globally. Cost of living, also that's globally. Customers are really, really sensitive to price at the moment, and they're also looking at areas to cut back. So just wanted to dive into some RFI data and get your take on a few things. So we're currently seeing 3 in 10 general insurance customers feeling very stressed about their ability to even afford the adequate coverage that they may need for themselves or for their family. How does RAA Insurance deal with that customer stress and help with it and address the affordability issue overall?
Yeah, I think, we are a membership organisation held by, and so we exist for the benefit of our members. So we really do bear that in mind in any consideration we have around how we price our products and also the quality and service we offer with our products. Mm-hmm. In these times where people are really challenged with their financial position, what we tend to find is that they will, relocate to a product that provides value for money. And so we really do pride ourselves on making sure that our products provide value for money so that when customers purchase our insurance products, when they come to claim time, they know that we're going to be there and they know that we're going to deliver on our promise. And that's really, really important in this environment. We've also, over the last year, had consideration to the different types of cover that people may need and their budget, which may sometimes determine the level of cover they need. And we actually introduced a new motor insurance product in September last year. And previous to that, our motor comprehensive product was quite a full package of product benefits. And what we've been able to do is to find some benefits where we think they can be optional and release what we call our standard motor comprehensive product. And that provides quite a solid price differential for our customers or our members to choose between 2 RAA insurance products. So they know they're going to get the same quality and service that supports those products, but we've now got a lower price point for our motor comprehensive product. And we've really seen both our existing members and new members flock to that.
Yeah, what I'm hearing then is it's just really about tailoring, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's about specifically tailoring products for certain people, and it's not a one-size-fits-all population. And you think about all service industries out there, that's just becoming more and more prevalent, isn't it? Everybody wants something tailored exactly towards them. And there's an expectation of that, quite frankly, across any, banking, insurance, any service that you receive.
I think one of the challenges, though, with tailoring is, we can't tailor it to too much for regulatory reasons. And so you really have to be careful about trying to find a product that might suit different tiers of the market and then targeting those markets specifically. So we're very conscious of not trying to over tailor products, but make it really clear what those benefits are. But I think, from a I guess economic perspective as well, when people are in an environment where they're needing to claim on their policy, it's so important that we're responsive to that, and that we're not, as a membership organisation, one of our values is being member obsessed. So when people come to claim on the product, we really want to make sure they get the best experience, they get timely responses, and also that we cover them for the things we say we're going to cover them for, and there's no tricky ways of getting out of that. And I think that's one of the things we really pride ourselves on, having a really full benefit packed product, and then being able to respond to that at claim time in the same way, and not trying to avoid responding to claims. I think we've over the last couple of years, in a challenging environment, we've paid out more on claims than ever, and we don't we're not going to roll back from that ever. Like, that's what we're here to do, and that's what our products are there for.
That's awesome. I think that's probably why you've won the awards that you've won. It's all about honesty and integrity, especially in the world of insurance. It's just such a sensitive topic, isn't it? Some other data that we've seen recently in RFI's latest insurance rounds are that 4 in 5 general insurance customers believe that it's been harder to afford insurance at all compared to just 12 months ago. So that's pretty recently, right? What do you see as driving insurance premiums, and what does that mean for RAA? There is clearly a big risk in having an uninsured population.
Yeah, and I think this is absolutely it's a South Australian issue, it's an Australian issue, it's a global issue, and we're not alone in I guess the stresses we're seeing around these issues. So I think for us, the affordability of insurance, there are a couple of factors at play. The first one for us, and probably quite significant over the last couple of years, is just the industry inflation. So in our supply chains, when we respond to claims, the cost of building a house, it has gone up enormously. The cost of materials continue to go up. The cost of repairs and spare parts. COVID put an enormous amount of pressure on supply chains, and we saw the cost of spare parts go through the roof. And although we're starting to see some of that inflation come off, it hasn't. It's been quite sticky, both in the motor spare parts space, but even more so in the home space. And I use a very little example. My father-in-law is a bricklayer, and 5 years ago, he was being paid 80 cents a brick to lay bricks. Now he's being paid $3.50. Like, it's ridiculous. And
that's a good industry to be in.
I know. He doesn't want to retire. But
I bet. Yeah.
And I think, these are the costs that are in our economy today. And insurers are not immune from that. We have those costs in responding to the claims. So we are doing our best. We have quite a significant program within our claims operations to try to create efficiencies in our supply chain, and also reduce the costs we're experiencing in our supply chain. But some of that is outside of our control. And so where it is outside of our control, we continue to have to, I guess, build that into the pricing of our products. And that's not something we want to do, but we also need to be sustainable. There's no point running a business where we're not here in 3 years' time and our members can't rely on us when they do come to claim. So that industry inflation is a huge part. Over the last 2 years, we've also seen quite a significant reset in the international reinsurance industry. And that's as a result of a number of significant weather events and natural peril events around the world. And I think for us in little old South Australia, people assume that we're not impacted by those things. But RAA, like every other state-based insurer or Australian insurer, we are relying on international markets to access capital for our reinsurance. And where those international markets experience a reset, we also experience a reset. And for us, in that hardening reinsurance market, it's happened to coincide with a number of significant weather events experienced in South Australia. So we probably experienced a little bit more harshly than some others. But all of those sorts of costs are core to, we need to have capital to support our products. We need to be there to respond to the claims. Those all go in as inputs into our product and therefore into our pricing. And unfortunately, it's been what we call a perfect storm of bad weather, poor natural perils experience, inflation in our claims supply chain, and then the reinsurance market reset that has occurred over the last 2 years. We think that is starting to ease off now, and certainly it was a different experience this year, but we're not seeing the natural perils events easing off there. We're seeing more frequent smaller events potentially, but then you have a big one, and it just, again, that supply and demand really places pressure again on the supply chain, and you see the pricing go up again. So it's really complicated but also simple, and it's reflective of those everyday costs that everyone's experiencing in their own lives.
Yeah, I mean, you say complicated but simple. I feel like it's so complicated and complex on the side of the insurer, but your customer just wants it to be simple, right? So and again, that's across professional services, banking and finance and insurance. That's we hear that time and time again as such a key theme. Wanted to chat to you a little bit about late payments. Another stat here: 1 in 10 general insurance customers have made a late payment on their insurance premium in the last 12 months. What's your take on that late payment piece, and what else do you feel the industry can do? And also, I wanted to say government, I think it's at a higher national level to help in this stage where it is late payments across the board. I mean, that's a huge statistic.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't say we've had an enormous issue with this. I will say, but what we've been trying to do, and we always have as a membership organisation, is provide as much flexibility for people as possible when it comes to payments. So we have always had a pay by the month option, and that pay by the month option we don't charge any extra for. And I think that is really beneficial to members to have that flexibility to choose. When you get an annual policy premium that can be in the thousands, that's quite a big hit, on top of your electricity bill, on top of other things. So we allow our members to spread those payments over the 12 months and at no extra cost. So there's no fees or charges associated with that payment process. And, also what we find is when our members look at their annual premiums, they then think about what are some other options that they have that might ease the burden on the premium side. So whether they wish to take a higher excess or there's optionality in our product that helps our members to make financial decisions that work for them. But yeah, it's an issue, and we can't. I don't know that there's a lot we can do individually to support people making late payments. I mean, we don't cancel people the day they make a late, the day before they make a late payment, and we try as far as possible to help our members through that journey. And we know that they appreciate that.
Yeah. We're speaking a lot about, payments and premiums and cost. And one of the interesting things we're seeing across the industry is really around this value for money piece. Thinking of all of the costs and the figures, how do you move that aside and basically compete out of price with your products? And I would hazard a guess here that it is a lot about your customer service and your flexibility. But what else? What are the other things that you do at RAA Insurance to really compete out of that price space?
Yeah, so I think that is very much about the fact that we're a membership organisation. So when someone purchases an insurance product with us, they become a member of our organisation, and that gives them access to additional benefits that can help them with their daily cost of living. So, we provide various discounts options to members with other associated suppliers. So we have a fuel offer that provides you, I think, 4 cents off a litre of fuel. We're constantly trying to build out a loyalty and discount program at a membership level that helps people in their everyday. We're also launching later this year an energy proposition, so to help people with their electricity. And we've had various offers over the years, but we're now taking a more active role in that. everything we can do to make that cost of living and that daily pressure relieved a bit at our membership level. That's our focus.
Yeah.
And our, having an insurance product is access into that membership model. So,
Yeah.
I think that one of the things we find is that because we are a membership organisation, we exist for our members, for the benefit of our members. Everything that we if we make a profit in our insurance business, that's going straight back into delivering more benefits to our members, and so ultimately our members end up better off. And I think that's a key differentiator for us in this market where everyone is experiencing price increases. What we find is our members tend to be happy to stick with us because they know that we're more than just an insurance product. We are a membership organisation, and they get the benefits of that throughout.
Absolutely. And I think just the effort that the business is obviously putting into all of those additional benefits, like you say, that just help with the day-to-day, the energy, the fuel, just the little bits and pieces, because every Australian, and I feel like everyone around the world at the moment, to be honest, is, looking at that budget and looking at that balance sheet as a family. I have a young family, and I know that monthly, we're really considering where everything goes when there's, a bill coming in every month. So any kind of additional benefit, and that also plays into that care factor as well, really thinking about your customers' lives and how they live their lives and what else they might need.
And I think we do that very much, not just at the products and services level, but also in the voice we have in representing 800,000 members across South Australia. So we know that we are representative of such a significant amount of our population that we have an onus to actually voice those concerns. So we've always played a really large role in road safety advocacy, and ensuring that, holding the government to account on road safety and ensuring we've got safe roads and the right infrastructure. We're leaning into population-related issues as well. But from an insurance perspective, we are really heavily targeting making sure that decisions around where we build houses are being made with a view on the potential natural peril impact. So, and the resilience that we need in the building of new homes and development of new estates, because if we don't have those conversations early with the government, then those decisions are made, people build a house, and then they work out it's not going to get covered by insurance, or the insurance is incredibly expensive because it's built in a flood zone, as an example. And so we see we have such an important role to, I guess, advocate on behalf of our members to make sure that, when we are dealing with government, we're raising those issues around planning, we're raising the issues around building materials, because we know that they have a flow-on impact, maybe not straight away, but in the near future, to the accessibility and affordability of insurance for those members.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd encourage listeners to check out RAA and RAA Insurance on LinkedIn. There's just a whole, you do a lot of discussion around these kinds of topics. I know that Nick Reed, CEO of RAA, is really passionate about the road motor safety, obviously a huge issue in Australia. And I love the passion around that. And it's really comforting to hear such a close relationship with the government, state and national, around sort of preventing issues before they could even arise. That's about protection and protecting the customer. Thinking about the next 12 months, we'll wrap up soon, Tara. I told you to go really quickly. I was wondering what key sort of, you've mentioned obviously a number, but key industry challenges and trends that you're really focusing on in the next 12 months when you've been thinking about your customer.
Yeah, and I think it touches on the two issues you opened with. So the affordability of insurance, it's enormous. And so, as I said earlier, for us, we see our role in looking internally at our own operations. How do we make sure that we've got a really close management of claims expenses, and so that we can then ensure that we can avoid as much premium increases as possible. So really making sure that we continue to make that affordable in the everyday sense. But then I think the other part to the affordability is around those members who are seeking policies where they have a higher natural peril risk. So, they might be subject to bushfire or subject to flood risks that are much more elevated than the rest of the community.
Mhm.
And, we have to price for those risks. Otherwise, everybody else bears the responsibility on behalf of those members.
Yeah.
But, it's about being really clear with people why we're pricing for those risks,
Yep.
and also that them understanding what they could do differently, whether that be undertaking, some putting in new sprinkler systems to address a bushfire risk. We like to be really transparent with our members about why they might have a higher premium associated with a natural peril risk, and then what they might be able to do to reduce that. And that, for me, and I know across the industry, that's one of those areas where we all are trying to work out how do we do this in a way that helps members and customers to make a choice. So in some instances, it is honestly a little bit hard if you've already bought a house in an area that has a high flood risk. Sometimes there's not a lot you can do to fix that, right? And that's where we lean back into our advocacy role and making sure that governments are really carefully considering those flood and bushfire risks when they're doing their planning, when they're reviewing the building code to make sure that the materials that are used in those areas are more flood resistant or bushfire resistant. So we sort of tackle it in a number of ways, both from an operational perspective, transparency with our members, and then also, our role in advocating with government. And we're hoping that will provide, I guess, a bit of a framework for getting a handle on that affordability. And I think what goes with that is not just affordability, but accessibility of insurance. So we don't want members unable to get insurance. And so we want to find ways that, they can mitigate the risks that might be attached to the property and where it's located.
Absolutely. I mean, that's in government's best interest as well, isn't it, really? You can't have an uninsured population, or it's just an absolute risk with everybody going bankrupt and delinquent. I mean, that's not.
And I think there's been a lot of different models used internationally. I know the ICA, I sit on the board of the ICA, and the ICA did a study tour through, I think, June and July to look at different experiences around the world of how you might regulate insurance differently to avoid that protection gap. And that's sort of, we call it a protection gap, being, people have a risk they want to cover, but insurance can't cover it because it's too high or it's too expensive. And so really how you address that, government have a huge role to play in that. And there are lots of different ways in which, governments around the world have tried to address this issue. And there is just more and more pressure on it as we find that the risks are increasing as a result of the natural peril activity, and the costs to respond to those risks are increasing through inflation across the whole of the industry. So it is really, I think, putting a lot more onus again on that. What is that protection gap for certain types of risks? And we've seen the cyclone reinsurance pool introduced in Australia over the last 2 years, and that's with an intent to try to cover that specific risk and the gap that was growing in that space. So it's interesting to really watch closely what are those options available, and what suits the Australian environment and the South Australian environment specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting raising the international examples, because you obviously only need to look around the world, and in this space, I'm sure you absolutely do look around the world, especially when we think about, bushfires, and we think about the similarities between Australia and the US and Canada, for example. It's where I was based for some years, actually. And then also, flooding and natural disasters. I mean, there's a whole conversation we could have around climate change and the impacts of climate. I know is obviously huge in the insurance space, and something I'm sure that you've got your eyes on. Being on the Insurance Council of Australia, that's really interesting as well, and they look globally. Thinking with that global lens on, where do you look globally when you think of perhaps best practice, or have any sort of examples come across your desk, or in those conversations with the ICA, sort of thinking, oh, that's best practice or the best type of innovation around the world?
Yeah, I think from how you address that protection gap is absolutely an international issue, and we've discussed that with our reinsurers and our get quite a lot of international exposure through our reinsurance network, and that's really helpful for us to understand, well, what might work in Australia or within South Australia, and what are the expectations and experiences internationally. I think from a broader innovation perspective, we're constantly monitoring what is happening everywhere. We're looking at the use of geospatial data. We're looking at the use of apps that predict driver behaviour. Finding opportunities where we can take some of that knowledge or experience, from someone, say, in the US, and apply that in a small experiment within our own environment. There's so much happening. And, I was in the US actually earlier this year, and went to visit Microsoft, and it was quite interesting to see, the use of AI through claims platforms. Like there's so much out there, and it's just trying to work out what you can take on board and what might be of use to really, again, for us, it's all about making sure we can provide the most efficient, cost-effective operation to avoid having to pass additional unwanted premiums onto our members.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much happening in that tech and AI space. That's another area you could go. InsurTech Connect is on in Vegas actually in October, isn't it? They always dive into those topics. I'm sure RAA have a group of people attending that. Tara, thanks so much for your time. It's been really wonderful to talk about everything that's happening in sort of our local industry and then national, but then also that international footprint in this space. It's a very challenging time for so many people, but great to see that there are businesses out there supporting and helping, but seems like no easy task, but really wonderful to speak with you. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Chloe. It's been a delight.